Welcome back. The future of tax reform hangs in the balance. Tensions over replacing Obamacare, leaving corporate America waiting to see when we will get action on taxes. House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Kevin Brady and the president reiterating the importance of why health care reform needs to get done now.
It really is important because, not just in health care, to move on to the budget and the next reconciliation that opens the door for fundamental tax reform. It's very important all of this move forward.
After we repeal and replace Obamacare, our Republican majority will pass massive, historic tax reform, the biggest tax cut since Ronald Reagan, and potentially even bigger. We immediately start on the tax cuts, and they're going to be really fantastic, and I am looking forward to that one. That one's going to be fun.
Joining us right now is EY U.S. Chairman and America's Managing Partner, Steve Howe. Steve, good to see you.
Good to see you,
Thank
Maria.
you so much for joining us. And you are dealing with tax reform and tax issues all the time. Do you think at this point the agenda has been delayed? I mean, that's what markets responded to yesterday.
I think so. I think things will be a little slower and a little more complicated, but still optimistic that it's big on the agenda.
So you still think tax reform in the House gets done by August?
I do, and I think the House, that's the key, because people need to understand that's only the beginning here. This will also get to the Senate. There will be heavy politics. We're seeing round one in the healthcare world here.
Tax reform is going to be a very complicated negotiation. You know, talking about the border adjustment tax, people are lining up for and against it. If this health care reform process gets ugly, if the negotiations don't go well, do you think that sour...
uglier.
Sorry, yeah. I'm being too optimistic here. Does that sour markets even more about the possibility of... Are they too linked, in other words, in order for the markets to overlook health care reform when it comes to tax reform?
Well, you know, I think that tax reform is going to get done. The question is in what form, so and to what degree. So I think we are going to see a heavy push. We need lower rates. We need a more effective global system. The border tax becomes the frontier and the political battle, and that's how you pay for it. And so that could affect the degree to which things get done. So I absolutely think what's happening right now is going to be a bellwether for what politics are going to look like on tax reform.
Because he's going to face a similar battle on tax reform that he's facing in health care, because you've got half the members wanting a border adjustment tax and others not. What's your opinion of this border adjustment tax? Do you have an opinion on what the implication would be? Do you think it causes companies to raise prices?
Well, you know, it's interesting. There's very divided views on this. It almost goes down by industry, and passionate views. And the other thing, you both mentioned the House. I think tax reform will also really be significant in the Senate, because I think some of the industries that are very much against this are working their senators right now. And I believe that really both sides need to be heard here. The other issue that we need to watch is there's a view that the dollar, a further strengthening of the dollar, will cover the border tax adjustment, but everybody's looking at the dollar right now and saying, can that really further strengthen? And it came off again yesterday.
It's making a real assumption that the dollar trades is a certain way,
well,
and that offsets the weakness coming out of the border tax.
You're putting on a blindfold, holding your nose, and sticking your fingers in your ears and jumping off the cliff in terms of assuming that the markets will play out the way that they need to be played out if you apply a border adjustment tax.
How can you bet on a market trading a certain way?
Yeah. And if the dollar doesn't strengthen by 25%, then the border adjustment tax hits consumers, right? They're going to pay the price for this tax.
Because companies will raise prices.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that the retail sector is yelling that really loudly.
And oil as well.
Yeah, gasoline prices would go up immediately, essentially. We've heard that from analyst after analyst. And as a politician, how do you sell that to your constituents?
And, you know, we've talked about this morning the op-ed in the Wall Street Journal that talks about President Trump's accountability, or his credibility, I should say. And do you think that markets are actually reacting more to, okay, how does the Trump administration do this? Do they have the political will? Do they have the political capital to get something as big as health care through, and then tax reform? Is this really a judgment in his first 100 days of, okay, does he have the credibility and the legitimacy with Congress and the American people to really govern well?
You are absolutely right. This is so much more than health care. I think the next 48 hours, people are watching just that. Will this president and this Congress get things done? The symbolism of this was a campaign promise, this is going to happen, and the look forward on politics, that's what everybody's watching.
Is that what business is focused on? What do you see coming out of the business sector right now? Because that's where the recession has been, right? Business managers sitting on cash. unwilling to put it to work in terms of jobs and investments. Has that loosened up?
Yeah, I think that there's a pretty good degree of optimism. You look at the market's been high since the election, off a little bit in the last day. You look at the labor numbers, the workforce, but I think there's still so much uncertainty on the issues we're talking about. And that is holding back bigger deals. How do I invest in my supply chain? I need to know what's going to happen.
So what are you seeing in terms of deals, M&A, in terms of investment coming out of business right now?
M&A, you know, against any historical measure, deal activity is pretty good. If you look at deal values in this year, pretty good compared to the last 5, 6 years. I think they would be even stronger. I think there's an optimism that could leap forward with a little more certainty.
In terms of CEO optimism, we talked about the business roundtable optimism. Consumer confidence even ticked up earlier this month, near recent highs. What wipes that away? I mean, how precarious is that kind of confidence in terms of watching Washington and their fumbles and bumbles?
I think, you know, the consumer confidence has been lagging but slowly keeping up with the business confidence here. And so, again, I think you're looking at something this week. And, you know, my feelers are still saying this is going to slip through here. This is going to be close, but it's going to get through. And it's going to get through because of the importance of the politics and the signal. I think that will lift business confidence that more is going to get done.
And so you think tax reform will move the needle on economic growth?
Oh, yeah. I think tax reform, you know, it's desperately needed. We haven't had change in 3 decades. The rate is not competitive. The global system we operate under in the U.S. is not competitive. This is going to help business. This is going to lead to more deal activity and more investment.